Oh, you got it so I can get to it? Oh, oh cool. Thank you. Hey, folks. Be with you in 1 sec. This is WooFDriver coming back at you live. And just headed out, just leaving the trail. And keep you informed. Okay. Let me get situated here. Okay, we've got one camera. Trying to get more. Signal looks a little weak here, so I'm just going to put this in single mode so I can talk to you. If I can get that right. So everybody, this is WooFDriver coming to you live. We just came from the trail, had an awesome run. Was a little overcast, as I said, so the rain was coming. It didn't show up now. Jag's not happy about being on this broadcast. Everything okay back there, Jim? Yeah, okay, so trying to get the camera situated here so I can give you. Some of them aren't coming through. Like I said, this is and maybe give some answers, put my readers on here, and I can. Okay, so if you have any questions, I can certainly take them now. And hey there, Lucky, thanks for dropping by. And we just had a good run. Again, you're going to see the names of the cameras for, unfortunately, I don't have the cameras lined up good here right now. But these are usually our ghost hunting cameras, and we're just using them in the truck, kind of an experimental broadcast for future runs like this and when we go out on our ghost runs. So we're trying multi-camera viewing options, as you see on the screen. If you watched earlier, the live broadcast from the trail was really good because we were able to have 4 cameras working at one time, and that really and the second camera, the other cameras for some reason just aren't coming in right now. I think the battery's low on them, but you're seeing that's Chase. Princess is actually back there still pacing. Hello, Kathleen. She's back up pacing. If you saw, we were on the bike and she got a little tired. Part of that is attitude with her, and part of that is her being tired, and part of it is just getting her over the hump. She stiffens up a little bit because of her arthritis and health conditions as she gets older, but we like to at least get her 5 miles in, and today we did about 8, a little better than 8 1/4, and she ran about 6 of those miles. So, but she was getting her second wind as we were pulling up. So I had her in my lap for a few times. I had her in my lap. And it was truly on the trail that was access without going and not made it. It barely made it to where it was. Green. See, lost it. I think you could hear Jag getting a little. Hey, Kathleen, and she is saying, nope. If you have any questions, now's a good time, Kathleen. Jag's in front. You can hear him getting a little feisty. Oh gosh, it just dumped me. Stop driving through bad areas. We're back live again. So folks, what happens is this will cut you off, and because of the live stream we're set up on, it automatically reconnects. So if you lost us there, I apologize, but we're reconnected now. And we're getting still a low signal, so we could lose you again. If we cut out again, I'll come back to you later. But just talking about the run, and if anybody's got any questions you'd like to ask or comments you'd like to make, I like to just put it all into a little bit of a summary of everything that went on. So we started out with with the intentions of doing 8 to 12 miles. Started out late, trying to get a lot of video stuff working. Had a great video run as well. If you were watching, you saw most of your cameras were working most of the time. The couple little hiccups we had are really solvable, so I hope next time to have it a little more perfected. Hey Charlotte, yes, hello. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Okay, so what happened was, Kathleen is asking what happened. So we set out on the trail to do 8 to 12 miles. Around 5 miles, well, actually about 2 miles in, we saw we had some wheel issues. And what I mean by that is our tire was running real ragged, the whole wheel assembly. So if you know on bikes what this is, there's spokes. And those spokes some of them were loose. And when one gets loose, they are like dominoes. They all start to get loose. And then you're riding on just a rim without any real support. Even though the spokes are still in there, they're loose, and because of the weight of the bike and the pressure of the road or trail it puts on it, it can collapse or fall off. So when we realized what happened, and that probably was a result of the last time we took the bike out, if you remember at night when we were doing our midnight mushing on our Werewolf's Ghost run, we had some issues with the trail. It wasn't in good shape, so we went up the road. But I think the trail part that we tried to ride was deteriorated at that bike wheel. So the bike wheel was going bad, we noticed. So we had to keep stopping and tightening it, and that became a problem because there's only so much tightening you can do without the proper equipment and in the state it was in. So the bike started to ride pretty awkwardly. We were able to nurse it along and get, like I said, a little better than 8 miles, but it was a little problematic some of the way. The day was overcast, so it was pretty cool for the dogs, relatively speaking, this time of year, and we did get spit on a few times. The Princess got tired about 5 miles in. I put her on my lap. If you go back and watch that footage or you caught it live, you'll see she got on my lap, she gets antsy, I put her back, and because we were stopping at the same time to do the bike wheel, it became a lot of stopping and attending to the bike wheel and putting Princess on and off, and she gets antsy during that, and it fires her up a little bit, which is good, so then she wants to get out and run some more. So we did that, and for about the last mile or so, which was really a little bit trying on the bike because it was really a nice climb uphill. Jim was driving at that point, and I was holding Princess, and if you saw us, we did a turnaround, and the dogs are trained to back up. When we tell them to back up, they actually turn around and they back up, and it's really a cool sight to see. And that's not a sled dog term, that's how they do it, because we've done it so many times and I've trained them, and it becomes a necessity essentially when we're running in predicaments that we get caught in. This trail basically came to a dead end. You had to go on something I'm going to call was like a switchback, if you remember the old railroad switchbacks, to transverse this hill, went back up just like in a Z shape. And we were climbing it as the wheel was, after we did our back up with the dogs, back up, reverse like a 3 or 4 point turn, ascending up the hill, the wheel started to really wobble, and Jim was really getting concerned. Plus the trail towards the end of this road climb, it basically started to share a road with, I guess, vehicles. What's that? The marina. That's what it was. And it was getting a little hairy onto which way to go because it wasn't clearly marked. We did find our way. The last little bit of it, there was actually a sidewalk we could have rode on, and it was a nice curb to get up to that sidewalk. We could have went onto it easily, but I guided Jim away from it. We rode on the road, and then we got to where the end of the road was, and Dan was on the other side to pick us up. There was a huge boat in the way. We had to work our way around it, which if we would have been on the sidewalk, we wouldn't have had that problem. But we craftily got Chase and Jag. Again, the dogs are real adaptable to almost any situation. We got Chase and Jag on the sidewalk while I stayed on the road with Zorro, and at this point put Princess on the road because she was too antsy to ride in my lap. She wanted to get down. She sensed all the excitement that was about to happen, how I was going to maneuver past this boat, and we were able to get by it in that fashion. So it was kind of cool. Hope you got a view of that. It was pretty interesting. And we met up with Dan. We took the equipment off the bike, put the dogs in the truck, took their harnesses off, and here we are. Well, we had a couple people come up to us, or the one guy when we were in the parking lot asking about what we do, which happens a lot because it's kind of unusual seeing two guys pull up with 4 dogs and all kinds of broadcasting cameras and everything else in some trail that they've never seen before. So a little entertainment there. Kathleen saying, who's laying in the camera? That's actually Chase. And all the dogs are laying down. Princess, I don't have the camera. I do have a camera on her, but it's not working for some reason. And for Jag too. They're all laying down, but usually you can hear her because there's rubber mats she lays on, and you can hear her pitter-patter back there, but she's not up yet. She was actually up earlier when we started the broadcast, but again, the camera's not on her. So Chase is in his husky curled up there nicely. They're all pretty content. They aired it out, got their energy out of their system, and the run went really well. The bike's going to need repair on that front wheel, as I was describing. We got other bikes we use occasionally, but it's not a big repair for the bike shop, so that should be easily done in a matter of a few days, and we'll be back out on the trail with it next week. Kathleen saying, sorry, you guys, had problems again. Jeez, hope it gets better soon. Kathleen is saying she's sorry we had problems again. Hope it gets better soon. It's what I call wolf driving. It's just the nature of the beast. As I explained before, all of this equipment is really not made for the rigors that we put it through. It's all needs to be bike worthy. What I mean by that is it needs to be built with bike parts and equipment, because it's got to be legal for the trails. If we would make it like a go-kart or like an ATV, they wouldn't let us take it on the trails. And with the dogs pulling on it in all kinds of awkward states, they stop to go to the bathroom, sometimes it's a tug. They see wildlife, they try to go to their right, it's a tug, or away from the bike, and it gets all these pulls on it. That's why there's big springs that they're tethered to. Myself and my passenger, as well as the water and equipment we carry, it becomes quite a awkward piece of equipment out there. So we get all these obstacles thrown at us. But Dan had pointed out that when we stick to rail trails are like we rode today. They're paved, or they're much more level and not as rugged of terrain to take the bike on. We do really well. When we try to ride on trails that are a little more rugged, like mountain biking trails, that's where we run into problems. But sometimes we want to venture into areas that are a little harder to get to, whether we're doing ghost hunting or there's some cool thing we want to see there. We just want to be a little more adventurous. And a couple of the bikes have a little more capabilities of riding that kind of terrain, but they are problematic with other issues, and we didn't have that with us today. We didn't need them today, but we probably needed it last week. There's one bike that is a couple questions here, Charlotte. Hey, Charlotte, who's all with you today? Okay, so today, Charlotte, we have Dan, otherwise known as Dan the Man. He is driving and mapped the whole trip out. And you're looking at me through an infrared camera. Behind me is Jim. He was co-piloting with me today and taking care of the dogs with me and doing all the stuff we need out on the trail, helping me with the equipment, etc. So that's my crew for today. Since this was a shorter run, relatively speaking, we didn't need a larger crew. Like last week, we had the ghost hunting crew with us, where we had Curtis, who is our resident expert ghost hunter. We had Big Sean, who was driving, who picked up Curtis, drove him down, and also watches the equipment for us when we're out on the trail, because we need everyone usually in that situation on the trail, as well as Crispy, and Crispy's a big part of the whole crew here. So that is usually who the others you'll see with us. And there are people that have been included in these trips that show up here and there now. Alumni, however we refer to them. Everybody's great. We love them all. They've been a big part of making this as much as a success as it's been. Kathleen had another question. Did you build that or did they buy it? Actually, I didn't build it. All of this equipment is custom built for me in some way or another. I work with a place in Utah. You can see Chase moving around a little bit in the back. And when we stop, he thinks it's time to run, so he gets up a lot of times and wants to see what's going on, if he can get out there and do some more running. Him and Zorro are the most energetic, athletic, and they could go 50 to 100 miles a day, and it still wouldn't be enough for them. But answering Kathleen's question, which is a great question, we all the equipment's custom built, and originally I started out doing this on a regular bike with a bike attachment similar to the one today that had a large spring, and it would keep the dog close enough to me and on the side so the dog wasn't in somebody's way. Traditionally, when the dog is running with you in this capacity on a bike or on a cart, a lot of times it's called bike joring, but they're usually out in front on a tow rope, kind of like a sled. And the problem with that scenario is that the trails that we like to go to are fairly populated. So when you run into people, the dog has a lot of leash, if you will, and can meander all over the trail. So if somebody's running or riding a bike, the dog essentially could get in their way. Now, we train them not to for sports like bike joring, but there's still that possibility. And with the dogs on the only a short tether that they can meander off the bike, and they won't get in anybody's way that way. You can be assured their safety and what's going on. So I started off on a regular stand-up two-wheeled bike and with my first Husky, and saw that this was a great way of exercising him, and I could put many miles on him without me having to run those miles, because I couldn't do it. I mean, it's hard for a human to run a rugged terrain, which the dogs are built for, in the capacity they are, and keep up with them or be able to provide that for them to be there. So, yep. So I'm going to get to that, Kathleen. Thanks for bringing it up. So what happens is, after that bike, I ventured into something we did. His name was Hudson. Czar was my first. Found out was what they use all over the world. It was built to the bike with on the side in a short, with which is traditionally how you would see a sled dog pulling a sled, pulling a bike, whatever. And with this shorter leash on the side, they're less likely to get in somebody's way. So that's where the shorter attachment to the bike comes in. Plus, them being on the side, they don't have to pull. But with the Seiko cart that I got into before any of these other bikes that I have, they're out in front and they're connected through a metal frame that rides on top of them and it's spring loaded. Really hard for you to envision this, I understand. I'll do a whole little conference on this one day, but it rides on top of them and they hook up through a 4-point harness, and it's used to train lead sled dogs because they're really pulling, and you can give them the proper instructions they need to learn sled dog commands. And the most important to learn those commands are the lead dog. Because when you have your front dog, when he understands left and right, which is haul and G, he can lead the team that way. The other dogs just follow. So that's why they use this fancy cart, which it was fancy. It is. I got my 2 dogs on it. It's built for 1 or 2 dogs. And I did many, many miles with that, and even developed a misting system. Oh, signal's cutting out. I apologize. It's probably just my microphone. I hope maybe this will help. Looks like we got good connectivity. But I have developed a misting system so I could run them year-round, essentially. And people say that's a big taboo. And, of course, I'm not running them, and they're not pulling to the capacity that we would be doing in the winter. But in the warmer months, they're able to get some exercise in. And I did that I would carry a cooler of water, develop this misting system, and went up and down this trail probably 10 million miles and learned so much about them. Learned to do this at night because of my job. I had to be in the dark hours, and I would do that all. At that point, okay, I'm back. Sorry. Are you able to see me now? I'm trying. Was live. What happens is when we drop a signal. Okay, we're back up and running. Okay, so I'm going to let everybody join again. Okay, climb aboard, everybody. Let's see some people join. Tell them to join, Dan.
Join up.
It's doing it again. Okay, sorry guys. We lost you there. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to join on. Looks like we've got decent signal here, not great. So what happens is it'll totally reconnect on its own. Warning, 2.3 megabytes should be good. Should be pretty good signal. So, okay. Thanks, Lucky. Looks like we got signal. Waiting for a couple people to... I was right in the middle of a story there talking about the Seiko cart, so I'm hoping people can come back and join in. Let's see. I'm going to give it a couple minutes. Got good signal here. Again, we're riding on I-95 right now, so it's a little tough. But it looks like, from what I remember, our ride up on this, we can maintain a signal here. Okay. Hey folks, if you're with me, I'm letting it build up. Crowd build up. I'm going to try to... Okay, folks. Are you with me? I'm trying, folks. It's just not cooperating. Okay. Okay. So finally, I think I've got perfect signal now. So I'm back in business and ready to continue on this story for you. Waiting for everyone to join on. Let's see if people join in here. While we're waiting, we're on 95, and that was just I remember coming up here, I think I was trying to broadcast, and it was rough connection there. But right now it's telling me we have perfect signal. We're running great, and I'll get back to my explanation here. So basically, I was explaining how I wrote a sled dog.